share with you the story of my father and my uncle, Moses Turner and Heinrich Turner, that were here in Plaszow for almost 2 years. And I'll tell you a little bit more about the family, about the conditions here in Plaszow, and the story of Oskar Schindler. It's all sort of connected. My father, Moses Turner, it belongs to the Turner family. Tina Turner is my aunt. So the Turner family came from the Tatra Mountains, the mountains in the southwest of Poland. The area is beautiful. It's Zakopane was the host of the 1936 Winter Olympic Games, so absolutely beautiful area. And they grew up there. My father was 14 years old when the war started. He had a big family. The oldest brother was Henrik, my uncle, that survived. And then there were two sisters, Helen, I'm named after her, Helen, my second name is Helen, and the little one was Tsila. Tsila sadly was born after the father of the family died, most probably from cancer, we are not sure, but the story was that he went to Berlin for an operation that was not successful, came back to the town of Novi Tag and died. So the orphans, the four orphans, with their mother, my grandmother Leah, lived in this small town. They were middle class. The family had a fur business. Fur was fine in those days, and so they were furriers. And you needed fur because it's very, very cold on the mountains, and people skied, and it was good life before the war. My father always was telling me very good stories about the community, about going to ski, about visiting grandparents. But then, of course, the war began, and the Nazis entered Poland and entered the area where they lived a few days after the beginning of the war, on the 1st of September 1939. The 1st of September 1939 was supposed to be the first day of high school of my father. He was 14 years old and he was about to go to high school. Sadly, of course, my father never went to high school. The war started and his childhood and education ended at this stage. He was then taken along 100 first boys and men from the town very, very early on, about a year and 2 months into the war, and was taken to the first concentration camp, slave labor camp. He went to 4 altogether, but the first one was, ironically, in Zakopane. Now, imagine that for 14 years, Zakopane was the place where he went to on the weekend to ski. It was the fun place, it was the safe place, it was the wonderful place, and suddenly it is the place of torture. Suddenly it's 20 kilometers away from your house and you are taken to a concentration camp. And from the age of 14 and a half or 15, he worked slave labor in a quarry. The concentration camp in Zakopane was a quarry, and he worked by cutting stones, carrying stones, hard labor at the age of 15. His stories from there were that the conditions were very, very difficult, and at one stage he got hernia. He was probably about 15 and a half or 16, he got hernia. Now what do you do? I mean, we have doctors here. What do you do when you got hernia? You need an operation. And there was a Jewish doctor in the camp that actually operated on him, probably saved his life, but without anesthetic. So, you know, the scar, the very jagged scar that he had, and those memories, early memories, these are early memories of the war, were very, very difficult. What happened to the family? Because he was separated, he was taken amongst the first 100. Meanwhile, his mother, my grandmother Leah, the two sisters, they were young teenagers at that time, were still in the town. There wasn't really a proper ghetto in the town. They called it a ghetto, but it wasn't closed by wall. There was a Judenrat, but it was a town where there were about 2,000, just over 2,000 Jews. It's a very small town. About a year and a half ago, a Polish PhD student that is researching the town found documents of my whole family. It's the first time I saw their names on a document, because the Judenrat, or the Jewish Council, actually had to write a form for each Jew of the over 2,000 Jews of the town. And suddenly, for the first time ever, because I don't have a picture of my grandmother, I don't have anything of my aunts that died, I saw a document